Most free-to-play RPGs are just predatory mobile ports designed to separate you from your wallet, but not all of them. Today, we're looking at 10 incredible Steam RPGs you can play right now without spending a single cent.
Path of Exile is essentially what happens when someone looks at Diablo and says, okay, but what if we made it completely uncompromising? More skills, more passives, more systems, just absolute psychological warfare. The passive skill tree alone is genuinely intimidating. The first time you open it, it looks like an enormous cosmic web of nodes, and I remember just staring at it thinking, yeah, I think I need to go lie down. But once it clicks and you realize you're building a character from scratch using a precise puzzle of gems, gear, and that tree, it becomes an absolute obsession. You'll find yourself running maps, grinding gear, and theory crafting builds at 1 in the morning for a class you haven't even started yet. The game respects your time about as much as a graveyard shift at a fast food restaurant, but when a build finally comes together and you start obliterating entire screens of enemies, it's incredibly satisfying. Best of all, the monetization is strictly cosmetic. They've held that line for over a decade. No pay to win here, just slightly judgmental stash tab prices if you want to actually store your loot.
If you try to describe Warframe to someone who hasn't played it, you sound like you've completely lost your mind. You're a space ninja in a mechanized suit, sliding across the floor at 90 kilometers an hour, doing parkour off walls and casting space magic that wipes entire rooms, and somehow it actually works. The movement system in this game is completely unmatched. Once you get the flow of bullet jumping and wall running down, going back to any other third-person shooter feels like moving through wet cement. I've spent entire missions just vaulting around the map for fun, ignoring the actual objective completely, which is probably a nightmare for my teammates, but they'll live. Digital Extremes has been building on this since 2013, adding massive open-world zones, railjack space combat, and a whole cinematic questline. The story quests are surprisingly good, too. There's a specific reveal in one of them that genuinely caught me off guard. The grind can get heavy and the user interface is an absolute maze for beginners, but once you push through that initial wall, prepare to say goodbye to your social life.
Faced extinction, and now you rise.
Next up is Wuthering Waves, which launched on Steam in early 2025. If you've played Genshin, you'll recognize the open-world skeleton here, but Kuro Games essentially looked at the genre and said, what if we actually made the combat fast and mechanical, rather than just pretty? The parry system is the star of the show. Landing a perfect deflection opens up these technical follow-up windows where you are making split-second decisions instead of just watching a pre-rendered, flashy, big number animation. The game has a real physical snap to it. Exploration feels fantastic too. The world is vertical in a way that actually matters. You're grappling up massive cliffs, gliding between platforms, and moving fast enough that getting around never feels like a chore. The story takes a hot minute to find its footing, and by a hot minute, I mean it's a bit of a slog initially. But as a pure high-skill action loop, it's doing things in the free-to-play space that most paid games are terrified to try.
Really? Go after it.
If you want a massive change of pace from standard Western fantasy, look at Where Winds Meet, which dropped in late 2025. Set in ancient China during the chaotic Five Dynasties period, the tone here is much more grounded, atmospheric, and focused on inhabiting a living world. The combat has a beautiful, fluid wuxia feel to it. It's light and precise, rewarding patience over mindless button mashing. But what blew me away is how much the game cares about the world outside of the fighting. There's a full crafting system, a day-night cycle that actively changes what's happening around you, and environments built specifically to make wandering off the beaten path feel worth your time. It's newer and the player count is a bit smaller, so it hasn't stolen the massive headlines yet, but if you want a beautiful historical playground where you can just get lost and pretend you don't have adult responsibilities, this could be it. Moving on to the First Descendant, a looter shooter cut from the same cloth as Warframe and Destiny. You're running squad-based missions, grinding for gear, and chasing higher power levels. Where this game shines is pure, unadulterated spectacle. It runs on Unreal Engine 5 and it looks incredibly expensive. The character models are highly detailed, the environments are gorgeous, and the giant boss fights are loud, chaotic, and visually impressive. Gameplay-wise, it's a much smoother on-ramp than its competitors. If Warframe's complex UI and erratic movement speed feel like too much of a learning curve, this game offers a much friendlier, more traditional shooting loop. Look, the monetization on this one gets talked about a lot, and a decent chunk of that criticism is entirely valid. The store can feel pretty aggressive about wanting your money. But if you keep your wallet closed, the core loop of shooting giant monsters and grabbing shinier loot works exactly the way you want it to.
If you think modern games handhold too much, Dark and Darker is here to personally ruin your evening. This is a hardcore dungeon extraction game that absolutely does not care about your feelings. You drop into a dark, medieval crypt with whatever gear you have, fight monsters, dodge other players, grab loot, and try to find an escape portal. If you die, everything you brought in is gone forever. That permanent loss is what makes the game brilliant. The tension is incredibly real because the stakes matter. Every door you open is a massive risk. Do you push deeper for better treasure, or do you take your tiny winnings and run away like a coward? The combat is deliberate, weighty, and slow. Positioning and stamina matter more than twitch reflex. Swinging a sword actually feels like swinging a heavy piece of iron, not just clicking a mouse until the enemy disappears. It's stressful, it's frustrating, and it is easily one of the most addictive loops on Steam for anyone who enjoys digital self-flagellation.
Let's swap gears to Once Human, which launched in mid-2024. If you took Stephen King's The Mist, mixed it with classic open-world survival crafting, and then added a bizarre post-apocalyptic new weird aesthetic, you'd get this game. You are literally fighting monsters with searchlights for heads and giant rogue school buses with human legs. It's wonderfully unhinged. The core loop splits its time between building a highly customized base, gathering resources, and teaming up with other players to take down massive, grotesque cosmic entities. What makes it stick out in the free-to-play survival space is its seasonal system. The game runs on distinct server resets that change up the mechanics, keeping the map from getting stale or completely overrun by alpha clans who haven't seen sunlight in 6 months. The monetization is mostly cosmetic, meaning you can experience all the cosmic horror and base building you want without hitting a hard paywall.
The smallest creature.
Next up is Destiny 2. Now, Bungie has put this game through an absolute emotional roller coaster over the years, but if we are talking strictly about first-person gunplay mechanics, this is still the undisputed gold standard on Steam. Gunplay feels heavy, incredibly responsive, and deeply satisfying in a way that almost no other developer has managed to replicate. You choose a class, jump into the solar system, and grind out gear across a massive variety of cooperative strikes, competitive crucible matches, and highly mechanical 6-player raids. Let's be completely honest though, the free-to-play experience here is less of a full game and more of an incredibly massive 100-hour demo. If you want the latest narrative expansions, you'll eventually have to pull out a credit card. But if you just want to log on with a few friends, space magic some aliens in the face, and enjoy flawless shooter mechanics for $0, the base game is still a massive playground.
Across the system. That doesn't just happen.
Moving on to Throne and Liberty, NCSoft's massive MMORPG that dropped on Steam in late 2024. If you missed the golden era of old-school, large-scale PC MMOs where hundreds of players clashed on screen at the same time, this is exactly what you are looking for. Instead of traditional mounts, your character literally shapeshifts into animals, dashing across fields as a wolf, soaring off cliffs as an eagle, or swimming through rivers as an otter to get around the seamless open world. The combat is built around a dual weapon system, allowing you to fluidly swap playstyles on the fly without locked class restrictions. It features massive castle sieges and open-world boss fights that require serious guild coordination. Yes, it's a Korean MMO, meaning the endgame upgrade systems can get incredibly complex, but the sheer scale of the world and the spectacle of its massive PvP battles are unmatched in the free-to-play market right now.
In tactical combat across a seamless world.
Finally, we have Zenless Zone Zero, Hoyo vs. hyper-stylish urban action RPG making its way to Steam. If you want a game that feels like a playable anime fight scene dripping in jazz-infused hip-hop beats and arcade energy, this is it. The combat is pure, lightning-fast adrenaline built around rhythmic character switching, perfect dodges, and explosive parry assists. When you trigger a chain attack and your squad dynamically swaps out mid-combo with explosive impact, it feels like an interactive masterclass in choreography. Outside of the chaos, you're navigating a post-apocalyptic metropolis, managing a retro video rental store, and hanging out with a wildly eccentric cast of characters. The world design completely abandons typical medieval fantasy tropes, opting instead for a distinct high-energy street culture aesthetic that bleeds into everything from the menus to the soundtrack. It's a gacha game, meaning the storefront is always lurking in the background to test your financial responsibility. But as a free-to-play visual spectacle with zero upfront cost, the pure mechanical loop is an absolute blast to play. $10 games, $0 required. Drop a comment letting me know how many of these you've actually played, or yell at me about the hidden gems I completely missed. If you want to know what to play next, click the video on screen right now. Catch you later.